What's going on, guys? Luke22SV here, and we're back with the career mode for Season 2 of Round 7 here for the Canadian Grand Prix. Actually back with career mode properly this time, an episode that, well, back to normal episodes, of course. We lost Monaco, a race that was actually pretty entertaining, but a race that went so badly wrong for us in the end. We actually qualified so well, but just didn't manage to keep it out of the walls, and somehow I think it was Sergio Perez won for Racing Point in the end, and they've got like the 6th best car as well, so a very interesting race. We're currently 4th best, a long way behind Mercedes and quite a bit behind McLaren and Ferrari in terms of performance scales. So of course McLaren looking good this season, that they're basically the 3rd best team, but Faber's doing a lot more than what I can do in this car. He's managed to extract a lot more, mainly because I've had 3 DNFs in the first 6 races, 2 of those being in wet races, one of them being around Monaco. Well, the one in Azerbaijan wasn't my fault, but the one in China, well, I don't know. Less said about that, the better, really. But we ended up... We've been colliding with McLarens throughout the whole season as well, so we just seem to be a magnet to both Butler and Norris, really. As we saw in Bahrain, where we still managed to get a point despite, well, just having a stupid penalty that we got for an incident that wasn't our fault. But as you can see, though, moving on into the Canada qualifying around Montreal. We're currently P2, provisional P2, and now we're on our final qualifying lap to see if we can get P1 and maybe get our first pole position of this career mode, because, well, we've had a poor start to the season, but the Mercedes is so strong, so it's going to take some effort to beat Valtteri Bottas this time. And, well, Lewis Hamilton currently behind us, so come around the last corner then to end this lap. We get DRS. Can it be good enough for pole position? And we go across the line, and well, I didn't actually realise that the session was still going on. I thought the session was actually ending, but didn't notice the time. We retired, and Hamilton went quicker to rub it in the wounds, salt in the wounds, and we end up P2 again by some margin, actually, in the end. 3 tenths, quite a lot of a gap around a short track like Montreal. So the Mercedes just showing how dominating it is still. And managed to outqualify our teammate as well, so actually managed to do a good thing for once. Verstappen having a difficult day along with Lando Norris. Red Bull really 5th best, to be fair, but Norris should be a lot higher up on the grid. Butler up in 5th, so there you go. Not showing the true pace down there as we head on into the race 10 for the Canadian Grand Prix, a track that we're quite strong at. So I think it's a track we actually got some decent points at in the Toro Rosso last season, before we left after round 12, of course. But yeah, it's coming to this race then, 2nd on the grid. It's going to be a tough battle between us and the Mercedes we'd hope for today. If we can fight for them, that would be good, but really almost the best that we can hope for is 3rd, because of how OP the Mercedes are. But we head on to the grid then, and of course we're alongside Hamilton in P2 and Bottas in P3, so we just about managed to stop a Mercedes 1-2 lockout. Leclerc 4th, Butler, Weber, Vettel, Perez doing very well for Racing Point, obviously getting the confidence from his race win. Gasly as well, Magnussen, Albon, Ricciardo, underperforming really for Racing Point. And you've got Kvyat, Verstappen and Norris there, and then Sainz, Hulkenberg, Giovinazzi and George Russell at the back, who also got a podium in Monaco as well. So Renault's really struggling as well this season, which we were expecting better, but now we move on to those 5 red lights to start the race then for the Canadian Grand Prix as they go away. And we're all away from the grid, and Valtteri Bottas getting a better start than us, as we always see. We dive down into turn 1, and Butler there getting involved as well. So Butler gained a position. We've actually made a slight bit amount of contact with Dev and Butler there. So we move up into P2. Well, take away P2 away from Bottas, who took it away from us. So retaking the position that we lost off the start and staying in P2. But can we manage to fight with these Mercedes now for the rest of this race? Whether that is going to be the case or not, we'll have to wait and see. But you can see Hamilton there pulling away, but now Bottas getting a good run on us out of turn 6, and now on the outside of us, can't make the move on the outside. So we'll have to wait until the hairpin and the back straight before he wants to make a move on us. One of the main overtaking opportunities on this track. There's actually quite a lot of places to overtake on here, one into those hairpins as well. But now, coming out of the hairpin, of course we locked up a little bit going into the hairpin. Can Bottas get a good run on us? He's got a better exit, better car, and he's looking to the outside. Now he looks to the inside as we sort of close him off a little bit there. Now looking to the inside, but we're going to go into the corner and just cut him off anyway, and keep hold of P2 as he had to take a poorer line into the corner, so get a poor exit out of the last corner, and we managed to get a bit of breathing space there as we go into P2. As we look at the replay then off the start, a good start from Hamilton, good start from Bottas, Leclerc getting a bit of wheel spin, but you can see how poor of a start we got. We dived down the inside of Bottas, Devon Butler almost getting involved there as well, almost punting us off, which we wouldn't have been surprised. The amount of contact we've had with the McLarens this season seemed to be a magnet, of course, to them. Of course, Norris basically ruined our race in Baku. We, I think, our spin into one of the McLarens in China. We had an incident with one of the McLarens in Bahrain, and yeah, in Monaco. I don't even know what happened in Monaco. It was just a mess for us. But again, there's our incident with a McLaren in Canada. So just every race we seem to have some sort of problem with a McLaren. So we're just in need to avoid the colour orange and blue from ever getting involved with, because it's just every time we see that orange and blue car, we just know that something bad is going to happen. But here you go, here's Bottas trying to make a move down the inside. But we managed to keep hold of P2 and managed to power on across the line. But now move on to lap 2 of this race, just after the replay. We're trying to chase Hamilton, who's got the lead, and looking to pull off into the distance. But yeah, again, already just over a second of a gap. So we're not even in DRS range of him at the moment, and Bottas isn't in DRS range of us as well, as we would go on to lap 3 next lap, which is when DRS comes on. So at the moment, we're looking almost safe from behind. So if we can focus forwards, that would be ideal. But Bottas in the Mercedes should really be closing in on us. You can see the pace of Hamilton. Bottas is going to have the same sort of pace as that as we look up into the hairpin again. And now Bottas, you can see the proximity arrow, and he's going to be really focusing on trying to catch up to us and getting a good run. He's got a toe now, but with no DRS, is he going to be able to get close enough to make a move on us into the champion chicane? As you can see, they get red the proximity arrow, but not close enough to make that move. And again, we managed to get the right line in the champion chicane and power on into lap 3, and still have to worry about Valtteri Bottas getting close to us. But Hamilton's hitting a fast lap of the race there, so Hamilton pulling away from us, which is not ideal. We don't want this to happen. We really want to be able to win a race, so because of course after this race and France, and as you saw last season, if anyone actually watched last season's race, it was a mess in that race. I think it was probably the worst race I've ever done. But yeah, France is one of my least favourite tracks. So we got 2 tracks now, Canada and France, and then we get the contract negotiation, and there's a very good chance that we could get sacked. We had a good result in Spain though, but of course we've had 3 DNS, 3 times we crashed out of the race, so we've had half the races we haven't finished already. So we really need to start finishing high up in the points, and of course we're getting outperformed by our teammate as well, Weber, in most of the races so far, although in qualifying we seem to be quite strong, but just in the races, in particular the wet ones, we're just not very good. But there you go, setting the purple sector free. So starting to look fairly strong now, but Hamilton 2 seconds ahead of us. We're just going to struggle to keep up with him really. We're just really going to have to push so hard if we want to compete with the Mercedes. It's just almost not worth how quick the Mercedes is. So that's what we need to do though. We need to keep developing this Alfa Romeo car, and hopefully we'll have some parts coming in for the next few races. Although Lucas Weber seems to be able to do a good enough job of it. He's actually currently fighting with the 2 Mercedes at the top of the standings, and Alfa Romeo currently sitting second in the constructors as well. So he's basically carrying the team at the moment. Now we've got to show that we can get the points too, as we're currently doing very well around here, but there's plenty of room for errors. We keep looking up into that hairpin and giving Valtteri Bottas a lot of interest. and he will have DRS now this time. So can Valtteri Bottas get a move on us with DRS as he's getting closer and closer? He looks to the inside. Is he going to be able to make that move? It's as close as he's looked all time, but this time well, get a bit of exceeded track limits. Slight amount of contact with Bottas as well, so doing a lot, as much as we can to keep hold of that P2 there, but closing slightly on Hamilton there as well. But moving on to lap 7, we're coming in at the end of this lap now. We've got a little bit of a gap to Valtteri Bottas, still a similar sort of gap to Hamilton, but our tyres are starting to go off now, and we're going to be pitting at the end of this lap. So this is going to be a vital part of the race to see whether we can gain time on Hamilton or whether we'll lose time on Hamilton through the pit stop strategies. And Bottas now 2 seconds behind, so whatever has happened to Bottas, he's fallen back a little bit, but that's perfect. Now we can just focus on this pit stop. Hopefully Hamilton has a bit of trouble, maybe he comes out in a bit of traffic, and then we can power on, fight for that race win, depending on how well the next part of this race goes, because well, he could quite easily go just as fast or faster really in that Mercedes, which is just so quick. There's really nothing we could do apart from just drive the wheels off this thing. So really just competing so hard with these cars that are just too quick for us at the moment, really. So really cut up against it, to be honest, in this race. But you can see on the graph at the start of this episode, and they actually managed to block Hamilton a little bit as we came into the pit. So maybe that cost him a little bit of time as we come out then. A good pit stop, 2-second pit stop, and maybe gained a slight amount of time just by holding Hamilton up a little bit there. So we come out of the pits on these fresh tyres and go to the end of the race then on these medium tyres. Can we get out in clear air? And it looks like we just have, well, just about ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who's got a few cars behind him. If we were a couple of seconds back, we could be in a bit of trouble there. But thankfully, we are fine. But moving on to the next lap then, we can see Hamilton's actually pulled off a bit further away. Not the best outlap for us, but we're still in P2 ahead of Bottas. So the fact that Hamilton is a little bit further ahead has really made things difficult for us now. But we got to push so hard now on these medium tyres. If there's perhaps a safety car in the next few laps, we may be able to pit again for soft tyres, maybe catch out these Mercedes. But really trying so hard. We're down in sector 1 again, so perhaps the pace not so good by the looks of it there. So again, we're coming through now the chicanes and trying our best to catch up with Hamilton in the second half of this race now. So we're about to enter the second half of the race. But again, 4.7 seconds ahead of us. Valtteri Bottas 2.4 behind. So it could be a race where we're in no man's land, to be honest, now until the end of the race, if things just stay the way they are. But we really got to push so hard to try and catch up to Hamilton as we come through the last few corners of this lap now. Again, down in sector 2, so Hamilton is quickest overall, but we come across the line and actually managed to set the fastest lap of the race there with a 1:11.2 just by having one good sector. So a bit of a weird one, and there's yellow flag as well further down the order, so no idea what's happened there. But we come through the second and third few corners of the Lando Norris out of the race, so poor qualifying from him and a poor race as well. He was down the order and retiring, so that's one less McLaren we have to worry about visiting in this race as he's now out. So shame that there was no safety car or anything that could get things close between me and Hamilton, unfortunately, but we've got to live with that now. Just keep pushing on and on. We set a personal best sector 1 and sector 2, so the sector 1 and sector 2 of last lap perhaps not so good. Maybe we even set a better lap this time around and get another personal best, another race best lap time. So we're actually going to get that extra bonus point as well for drivers and constructors, which is going to help a lot, really. Well, it could actually help a lot around the end of the season. We're in a tight battle with the McLarens and the Ferraris, of course, and the Red Bulls are there or thereabouts as well. But there you go, we've got to cross the line. But now moving on to lap 16, it's been a fair few laps now, and we're closing in on Hamilton. We're 1.4 seconds behind him. We've managed to close up on him just about. But the thing is, now we're having to manage ERS, we're having to manage fuel, and it's just getting difficult and difficult to actually manage to get close enough to Hamilton in the DRS, because we need to get in between a second of him, but it's just not happening. And there you go, 1.3, 1.9 seconds ahead of us, and we're really trying to just close in, get that DRS activation, and if we can get that DRS, that may just pull us along a little bit closer, as we'll get away with quite in the corner there, to be honest. But we can just manage to get DRS. That would really help get us close enough, because then we can save a little bit of DRS and manage to use it for different areas of the track to actually close us in. So at the moment though, it's just not looking possible. Trying to use as much fuel as we can without going underneath the fuel, but now we're just really trying to close in, but taking too many liberties there, and getting a time penalty. So that's really just ended our race there, but we're a long way ahead of Bottas now, so not to worry about that, but just trying to take the best line possible through the last chicane, and in the end we ended up taking too good of a line that ended up being a corner cut, which is fair enough. That was a slam dunk penalty there. We did get a few warnings already. We saw one at the start of the race where we got a warning for the same corner, but now we've sort of run out of steam. After that, we've sort of realised, well, we're not going to win this race now, so we're going to back off and accept the P2, which is all we can do now. Just as long as Bottas doesn't get within 3 seconds, which he shouldn't, because he's a long way back now. I don't know what happened to Bottas in this race. Hasn't had the same pace as Hamilton, which is weird to see, because that Mercedes has been so strong all season, and just been in a fight with my teammate as well. But getting one car, Alfa Romeo, on the podium in myself, which is doing everything I can to convince this team, and well, what would be the whole Formula 1 world, that I am good enough, despite having a terrible start to the season. And I thought the start to the season with Toro Rosso was bad enough. The one with Alfa Romeo has just been even worse, but it was a good second half of the last season as well. But coming into the season, it's just gone horribly wrong. We had that incident in Australia qualifying, had to fight our way through the order, but we did manage to finish in the points in the end in that race. But it was a difficult one as well in Bahrain. It's a track that I struggle at, but managed to get a point in the end, just through sheer luck really. Everyone else getting involved in incidents, along with myself being involved in an incident. And then China, we spun out on the first lap. Yeah, again in Baku we ended up getting taken out on the first lap. So yeah, poor first 4 races. Spain, we had a better race this time, but poor qualifying, but good race. Managed to finish, I think it was P5 or P6 in the end. But then Monaco came around, and it was a nightmare. We qualified ahead of our teammate, but crashed out of this race. Then this race, we qualified second, and we're going to finish second as well as we come through the last quarter. A very good race, managing to mix it with the Mercedes, who are so much better than us at the moment. But there you go, we have the fastest lap of the race as well, so it's an extra point that we really need at this time of the season. We're down in P13, I think it was, in the driver's standings, but this really should move us up a lot, because we're in one of the top 5 cars, so we should really be in the top 10 in the standings. But the PS2 graphics there looking very good, with everyone come out on the podium. It's a British 1-2, Hamilton winning ahead of myself, so very good there. Stopping a Mercedes 1-2. Bottas shouldn't really be smiling, to be honest. He should have been further up there fighting with myself and Hamilton. But there you go, happy days. We're on the podium for the first time this season, despite the amount of times my teammates appeared on the podium. We're going to have to settle for P2 though, which is happy days though. We're happy days. We're happy with that result. Definitely going forward, we'll see how everything's looking now. We're second in the race with that penalty. Bottas third, Weber fourth then, so he had a better race than he did in the qualifying. So good news for us that we got a strong result, and Hülkenberg got driver of the day despite finishing P13, which is well, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, there we go, up to P7, so ahead of Verstappen, Norris and Gasly. So that's the other guys that are in the top 5 teams, but Gasly's having a disappointing season for Red Bull, behind Sergio Perez. There you can see the constructors though, up into P2. So actually we were behind Ferrari going into this race, but now ahead of Ferrari. So they're not looking so strong as they were. We had a very good race for Alfa Romeo. And definitely, hopefully going forward with some upgrades, we can fight for more wins, because we're looking strong at the moment now. Hopefully we can get a good run of form. But, well, we'll see how it goes in France. Next race time, which is a difficult race for me, not one of my favourites. But like and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for the French Grand Prix.